Yes, sir. Pretty Richie in the house. Pretty Richie, what they called him. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Yes, sir. Favorite time of the year, baby. Yes, sir. Very special Christmas. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, 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 welcome one, welcome all. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Just going over some things that took place yesterday that is fantasy relevant around the league. Okay, first and foremost, Pat Fryermuth, he had 7 catches for 66 yards. That works out to be about 13 fantasy points in a regular PPR. If you in a tight end premium league, that's a good 16 fantasy points for you. Yes, sir. Off of 8 targets, he's going to be one of the best tight ends to own next year. If you can get him in Dynasty, I definitely will look into doing that. Don't overpay for him though, because don't forget tight ends take about 3 years to produce and to build a rapport with their quarterback. Najee Harris, he was busy yesterday. He had 95 yards, went over the Raiders. He had another 6 receptions for 42 yards. So he had every bit of 15, 16 fantasy points. Yes, sir. Excuse me. But yeah, he did good on that. So you definitely want to get Najee Harris as a low end RB1. He's a buy low because he gets so much volume within the offense, and I can't see the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting a really good rookie moving forward. And to compete with Najee, you may get a compliment to compete with the backup running back Jalen Warren. Yes, sir. Derek Carr, he had a long day at the office yesterday. He had 16 of 30 passes were completed for only 174 yards passing against the loss against the Steelers. He threw just 1 touchdown to Hunter Renfrow, and he threw 3 interceptions while taking 3 sacks. He was rushed. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense was all over Derek Carr. So a lot of that was not his fault, but he's the quarterback, and all quarterbacks take on the brunt of any responsibility, how good or how bad that the offense does. So with that being said, with Derek Carr, he's going to be a stash for dynasty purposes. Obviously, if you made it to the next round in this year's fantasy football championship round, the next week or whatever, I would find somebody better. He's just not operating on all 4 cylinders right now, or all 8 cylinders. So go ahead and get another quarterback to go in your position, unless you have no other choice in the Superflex league where you should start 2 quarterbacks. You don't always have to. You don't always have to start 2 quarterbacks in Superflex league, but most people, they do. Okay. Josh Jacobs, he had a lackluster game. He only had 44 yards on 15 carries last night against the Steelers. That Steelers defense was everything last night. Like I said, you got to start Josh Jacobs each and every single game, each and every single way. You got to start him next week. I don't care what the matchup is. Obviously, not many players are matchup proof, but in the event that you do have a better option at the running back position, feel free to plug him in. I mean, there's not going to be many running backs in the league that have or acquire the amount of volume that Josh Jacobs is going to have. So you're going to have to either lower your expectations, but at least start. You got to have him in there no matter what. Dak Prescott. I'm big on Dak Prescott. I was big on Dak Prescott all year. He's been up and down. Last night, he was definitely on the up. He threw for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Saturday in the win over the Eagles. So that, like I said, that was a much needed win for the Dallas Cowboys, especially after being embarrassed last week by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. And for week 17, he's going to have a good matchup against the Tennessee Titans. So if I were you, I would definitely fire up Dak Prescott for the fantasy football championships, whether it's a one quarterback league or two quarterback league. And boy, CD Lamb balled out. He had 10 catches for 120 yards and two tutties, two touchdowns. Yes, sir. He balled out. You're not going to bench CD Lamb anyway, but it's good to see that he's starting to boom more often than not. He's becoming more consistent as a boomer, and that's a good thing. Tight end Dalton Schultz, he had 3 catches for 43 yards on 4 targets as well. So you got to take your hat off to him, especially in the tight end premium league. The tight end position is very volatile. Okay. Ezekiel Elliott, he had a mediocre game. He had 61 total yards, 17 touches, 55 yards rushing, one catch for 6 yards on 1 target, and he scored a touchdown. He scored a team touchdown right there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tony Pollard had a good day, though, too. You know what I mean? He had 19 yards on 9 carries, but he added 6 catches for 61 yards on 8 targets. So Dak Prescott is hyper targeting this guy. Tony Pollard is a must get. Running back in dynasty formats, you spend good money on him, spend good fantasy value on getting him. Okay, so you go ahead and get Tony Pollard in your dynasty league, because for the next 3 seasons he's going to be he's going to be a top 7 RB moving forward. Yes, sir. Gardner Minshew throws for just Gardner Minshew balled out. He balled out. I missed. See, one thing I said. I think it was once we found out that Jalen Hurts was going to be out. I said, do not start Gardner Minshew. Then I started to do a little more research on him, and I did start him. Even though I told you guys not to, I did start him, so I benefited from that. Like I said, real life and fantasy are 2 different things. A lot of times they do correlate, but sometimes they don't. But he racked up 355 yards, 2 touchdowns in the loss against Dallas. So I'm happy with that, and I think he had a rushing touchdown as well. So that made up for the 2 interceptions that he threw. So yes, sir. So you can feel confident with you Jalen Hurts owners can feel comfortable with starting rolling out Gardner Minshew, and in the event that Jalen Hurts isn't back. I think they're going to hold Jalen Hurts out because the Eagles are playing well enough, and they have so many wins. I think that was a second loss in the NFL season, so they're going to feel comfortable starting Gardner Minshew, and that's just going to make him a little bit more sharper because he's going to have another week to build that rapport with the pass catchers. You see Devontae Smith had a huge game, so that's the new number 1 target, even though AJ Brown had a day as well. Gainwell had a well. Like he likes to throw those short to intermediate passes. Devontae Smith, where he had 12 targets, 8 catches, 113 yards. AJ Brown added 6 catches for 103 yards on 8 targets, and Kenneth Gainwell went 4 catches for 41 yards. Dallas Goedert, who was my tight end starter of the week, unfortunately he had a decent game. He had 3 catches for 67 yards, which is decent for a tight end. It didn't boom or anything like that, like TJ Hawkinson boom. Ooh, Lord have mercy, he boomed. He had 35 fantasy points yesterday. He had a game, so you can definitely, but he's not consistent. Dallas Goedert, in my opinion, he's a better tight end than TJ Hawkinson because of the fact that he is consistent every week in and week out. You know what his floor is going to be. TJ Hawkinson can get in here and give you 2 fantasy points. He'll give you 2 fantasy points. He's all over the place right now. He can give you 2 fantasy points. He can give you 15 fantasy points the next week and 30 points the next week. And then for the next 2 weeks, get you 3 to 4 fantasy points. That's TJ Hawkinson. That's rough. That's a rough start, man. But you got to roll with the punches when you draft any tight end within the first 5 rounds. And most people draft TJ Hawkinson within the first 7 rounds. Sanders get to work, but not a lot of production yesterday. He had 21 carries, but he was only able to get 65 yards. For dynasty purposes, he's a buy low. Miles Sanders is a buy low because now Jalen Hurts is in town and he has full realm of that offense, and he's going to be hyper targeted, a big part of that offense moving forward. So he's going to be a solid RB2 moving forward, especially for dynasty purposes. So if you want to go ahead and dibble and dabble and get Miles Sanders, feel free to do so because he's still young enough to give you a good three years, good enough 3 seasons. Purdy, he did decent. I mean, he had 2 touchdown passes. He threw for 234 yards. Went out 15 for 22 against the Commanders. Washington Commanders have a very good defense as well, and he still did good. George Kittle had a day. He killed it. George Kittle. The last 2 weeks, George Kittle has been doing it. He got 6 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday. George Kittle also he led the team in all 3 categories. 2nd straight TD games, yes sir. Brandon Ayuk had a decent game. He had 5 catches, 87 yards on 7 targets. So you guys can feel good about Ayuk. He's starting to put it all together and seems to develop a nice rapport with Purdy. Took 3 weeks to do it, but you know he's serviceable, very serviceable as a wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver too. Yes sir. Robinson struggled. Against the 49ers, we all knew that he would do that because the 49ers have a top 2 or top 3 defense against the run. But Brian Robinson was able to, he had 22 carries for 58 yards. You know what I mean? It's a very tough matchup. So Brian Robinson is definitely an ad, a buy low. Or a medium buy. You're not going to buy high. You're not going to spend. You're not going to break the bank to get a running back, Brian Robinson. My man, quarterback Taylor Heineke, he got pulled. He got benched yesterday, and Carson Wentz got some play. So things were going bad anytime Carson Wentz is on the center. And the starting quarterback in Heineke did not get injured. He just got pulled because he was just playing that bad. You know what I mean? Heineke, he only completed 13 of 18 throws for 166 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and an interception. He also lost a fumble. I guess Ron Rivera has seen enough and put Carson Wentz in there.
Oh, she's poor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, Malik Willis. He had another dud. He had another bad game. He went 14 catches of 23 passing yards against the Texans, tallying just 99 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That is absolutely awful. He's been a huge disappointment. Tennessee, they're going to draft a quarterback. They got to spend a top 2 round draft pick in order to get their quarterback of the future. Tannehill, he's getting old. He's about to retire. Malik Willis is more of a project at this point, but in the event that you want to get him, he's definitely like a super buy low because he's been doing bad. I mean, he's got all the tools, but putting it together at the NFL level is a whole nother ball game. So with that being said, we'll move on. Derrick Henry had a game. He had 23 carries, 126 yards, and a tutty against the Texans. That's very respectable. He's probably only got like one more season that he's going to be like the bona fide number 1 running back in that position in that offense, but they're probably going to draft a running back, the heir of Derrick Henry, this upcoming season here in the NFL draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they went after a clone for Derrick Henry. Ramondre Stevenson, he only got 33 yards off of 18 carries yesterday. It's not good. He had 2 catches for 3 yards on 5 targets, and it is what it is at this point. But with that being said, you can't bench Ramondre Stevenson if you made it to the championship round. You definitely gotta fire him up, okay? Fire them up. I know you got to take the good with the bad with these players. It's football. It's cold out there. It's NFL playoff time. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, these teams are playing hard. You know what I mean? So you got to take the good with the bad, roll with the punches. You got to take the bitter with the sweet. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Joe Mixon, he had 16 carries to 65 yards against the Patriots. And he also added 7 receptions for 43 yards off of 9 targets. So he's a big part of the game. That's no surprise there. But if you, for dynasty purposes, I would look to sell Joe Mixon high. Sell him high because he had a very good season for 2022. So for 2023, I would sell high on Joe Mixon. He's going to, whoever gets him, he should give you 2 more RB2 years, 2 more seasons with RB2 production. And my man Joe Burrow, he had a game. He completed 52 passes, 375 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Then he had 2 interceptions, against the Patriots. Bill Belichick and them, they still show up each and every time to win that game. So for Joe Burrow to do what he did is very impressive, and we all know that. If you can get Joe Burrow on your dynasty team, you're going to have to break the bank. I wouldn't do it, but if you had to, because you're restructuring your team, feel free. Kirk Cousins, he had a decent game. He threw for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Giants. I definitely take it. Like I said earlier, Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson had 2 scores. Jefferson for the other. Justin Jefferson tops 100. He had 103 yards and a touchdown against the Titans. So against the Giants. So that's what you do. Justin Jefferson is a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, baby, and he's young. So, if dynasty purposes, if you want to get him, like I said, you have to break the bank and sell for him to get him. My man Danny Jones, he threw for 334 yards and a TD. Saturday's loss against the game, but you can definitely, and he's got some legs too. He had 34 yards rushing on just 4 attempts. You know what I mean? He only threw 1 touchdown pass to Isaiah Hodgins. Danny Jones is a hold in dynasty for dynasty purposes. Go ahead and hold Danny. You know what I mean? Saquon Barkley, he ran for 84 yards and a touchdown on 14 carries. He added 8 catches for 49 yards. He's a stud. As long as Saquon Barkley is healthy, he's going to be an RB1 for dynasty purposes. He's still young enough where you can go ahead, and if you're in a win now mode for dynasty purposes, go ahead and get him. Jared McKinnon, he's been having a good 3 last week. You know what I mean? Okay. Travis Kelce goes over 108. He's a sell high. Travis Kelce's a sell high. Okay, because he's getting older now, even though he's attached to the greatest quarterback, arguably, and Patrick Mahomes. But sell high on Travis Kelce for dynasty purposes. Obviously, you're going to pay him next week in the Fantasy Football Championship. Maybe. Kenneth Walker, okay, he's racked up 107 yards on 26 carries. He's a buy high. Kenneth Walker. He's going to give you a good 3 or 4 seasons as a RB1. He's young, tough, very talented. Yes, sir. Sean Watson, he threw for just 135 yards. He had no touchdowns and interception against the Saints. That was a crazy game. It was cold. We knew it was going to be a low-scoring game anyway. But for fantasy purposes and dynasty purposes, you can definitely go ahead and get Deshaun Watson, buy low on him. Buy low. Like I said, he's still rusty. It's been almost 2 seasons since he played at the NFL level. So go ahead and buy low on Deshaun Watson, because next year he's going to have a monster year. He's going to have a full off season. He's going to have no distractions. All them lawsuits and stuff is going to be behind him. He'll be able to focus on what he loves to do, his craft, and playing a quarterback at the NFL position. Taysom Hill, he got 56 yards and a touchdown off of 9 carries. Yes, sir. I love Taysom Hill. He is be mindful for dynasty purposes. Taysom Hill's getting old. He's getting old. I think he can definitely be serviceable for at least 1 more season. So if you are going to obtain him, if you are going to draft him, You have to do it with intention, with purpose. You can't say, "Oh yeah, oh Taysom, there's Taysom," and it's like round 10 or 11. You no, you make plans to get Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara finally showed up. He ran for 76 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara is a buy low because he's Alvin Kamara. He's still young, young enough to give you a good 2 seasons. Justin Fields, he threw for just 119 yards and a touchdown against the Bills, but he only had 7 rushing yards. Buffalo was on him. Buffalo is a very good defense. Okay, so you can't hold that against Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't have any. He doesn't have any primary targets to throw the ball to other than Cole Kmet. So you can't. You got to just chuck this one. Like I said, you got to take the good with the bad and the bitter with the sweet when it comes to fantasy. You're not going to bench Justin Fields. And then for dynasty purposes, he's a buy. Buy. Yeah, I'm not saying break the bank or sell the farm to get him, but if you in a 2 quarterback league, get him. Stephon Diggs, he was held for 2 catches for 26 yards. Gabriel Davis led it. He had 6 targets, catching 3 of them, 45 yards and touchdown. Gabriel Davis is a buy low in dynasty. Stephon Diggs is still a bona fide stud. Like I said, you got to take the bitter with the sweet and start firing him up no matter what. Josh Allen, he had threw for 15 attempts, 26 passing. He completed 15 to 26 passing yards, 172 yards, and he threw for 2 touchdowns. And he also threw 2 interceptions. He also ran for 41 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, he's matchup proof. You're going to start him. He's going to play against the Bengals on Monday night. So that's definitely going to be a shootout. So for fantasy purposes, you're going to fire him up no matter what. Yes, sir. Get him up in there. Get him up in there. And he's a buy high in the dynasty moving forward. Deontay Form, Devin Singletary had 12 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown. Well, he's keeping James Cook is on his heels, though, 11 carries and 99 yards and his own touchdown. But I still think Devin Singletary is the running back to own, but James Cook is not far behind him. So, and James Cook is a little younger. He's a rookie at this time, and he's getting his NFL feet under him. So go ahead and fire him up and try to get him in dynasty as plays a buy high. Devin Singletary is a hold. You hold Devin Singletary and you buy James Cook. Deontay Foreman, he finally showed up. He racked up 165 yards and a touchdown on 21 carries. Hey, running back Chuba Hubbard also had a day. He ran for 125 yards on 12 carries, and Blackshear got involved and scored as well. Deontay Foreman is a hold in dynasty. You know what I mean? He's hit or miss. Like I said, in fantasy, you got to take the good and the bad, the bitter with the sweet. Last week was bitter because I had him as a flex and he dudded me. So I was so mad I put him on waivers and now look what he did. So you have to always use your mind rather than your emotions when it comes to letting players go. DeAndre Swift, he only rushed for 22 yards on 12 carries. It's inconsistent. That's very inconsistent and very disappointing in DeAndre Swift. This is probably the worst year. He would have been better off getting hurt, getting injured, and letting Jamal Williams just do his thing rather than having the fantasy owners, instead of having the fantasy owners rely heavily on him. You know what I mean? Because he's like a second, third round draft pick. You know what I mean? And to do you like that's rough. That's a rough one. He's a sell high. If you can. Most people only want to touch him on a 10-foot pole the season that he had. Now, that's all I have right now, other than Jared Goff. I think they're going to draft. I think Detroit's going to draft a quarterback to give him some competition. That's just my opinion. He's good, but I don't think he is good enough to just say, hey, we're going to give you the reins and let you be the number 1 quarterback moving forward. I think they want to get him some quiet competition in there. So, like I said, with that being said, you guys have a wonderful Merry Christmas. I gave you the sauce. Yes, sir. Gave you the grits and gravy with extra butter. So now you guys are all up to date As far as the games today, like I said already, if you follow me, you already have who to start and who and why, and all the predictions on how they should do today from a fantasy perspective, fantasy standpoint. But yes, sir, I'm going to get back to my family, and I hope you guys do the same and enjoy these games. And don't eat too much, don't drink too much, moderation in all things. And you guys have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy your happy holidays and happy New Year. Oh, look at the time. It's 11:11. You see my clock in the back to the left, baby. My left, your right. Yes, sir. 11:11, baby. Perfect. God is good, baby.